She had 4 seconds and 1 door between her and the man who had spent 2 years telling England she was cold. So she turned and put her arms around the nearest stranger and pressed her face into his shoulder and held on. It worked. Her ex-fiancé walked past her without a glance, and then the room went quiet, and Amelia Carrow looked up into the face of a man she had never seen before in her life, and understood, from the way 40 people were staring, exactly whose coat she was holding. Before we begin, tell me in the comments what country you're watching from. I read every single one. And if you like stories like this, subscribe. It costs you nothing, and it means everything. Amelia Carrow had not intended to come to the Renshaw ball at all. She had accepted in September because her aunt had accepted for her, and because Lady Renshaw was one of the 11 people in London who still sent her a card, and because refusing would have been noticed. That was the entire calculus of her life now. Everything she did was measured against what would be noticed. She had come with her aunt, in a gown 18 months old, and she had spent the first hour doing what she always did, which was standing where she could see both doors. He was not supposed to be in England. That was the thing she kept returning to afterwards. Julian Verrall had gone to Paris in June, and was not expected before the spring, and Amelia had checked. She had actually asked her aunt to inquire, casually, of 2 separate people, because that was the sort of woman she had become in 2 years, and she had been told Paris until March. She saw him come in at 10:30. He was with the Farrar party. Of course he was. He was to marry Miss Georgiana Farrar in April, and there was £40,000 in it, and everybody said what a charming match, and he came through the far door of the long gallery laughing at something, with his head turned, and in about 6 seconds he would turn it back and be looking directly at her. Amelia's body decided before her mind did. She had a wall behind her, and a pillar to her left, and the Ferrars filling the door in front, and there was nowhere to go, and no time to go there, and the only object in the world between her and Julian Verrall's eyes was the back of a man in a dark blue coat, standing 4 feet away. She took 2 steps and put her arms around him. She got her face into his shoulder, and her hands into the wool of his coat, and she held on, the way a person holds on to a spar in water, and she felt him go absolutely rigid under her hands. He did not push her away. She thought about that a great deal afterwards too. 4 seconds, perhaps 5. She heard Julian's laugh go past her. That laugh, the one she had once found delightful, and now heard in her sleep, and she heard it move on down the gallery and not stop. Then she became aware that the room had changed. Not gone silent. Worse than silent. It had gone quiet. The particular quiet of a great many people, all deciding at once not to say anything yet. Amelia lifted her head. The man she was holding was perhaps 30, dark, and had a face she did not know at all, and was quite certain she would have remembered. He was looking down at her with an expression she could not read, not outrage, which she had braced for, and not amusement either. Something more careful than either. "Madam," he said quietly, "you are going to want to let go of my coat." She let go of his coat. "I am so sorry. That was—" She heard herself and stopped. There was no end to that sentence that did not make it worse. "Yes," he agreed. Behind him, 40 feet away, somebody laughed, and then several people did. "I'll go," Amelia said. "I'll go now." "You will not," said the man, "because you will not get to the door, and if you run out of this room, the story that goes home in every carriage tonight is that you ran." He put one hand very lightly under her elbow, and turned, so that they were both facing outward into the gallery. "Stand there, look bored, say something to me, and laugh at it, and for God's sake make it look easy." Amelia, who had spent 2 years being told she could not do easy, said, "I don't think I can." "Then say something true, and let me laugh at it." "You are the only man in London who has not heard about me," Amelia said, "and that will last about 11 more minutes." He laughed. It sounded entirely genuine, and she suspected it was not. "Good," he said. "Now walk with me to the window, slowly, and take my arm as though you have done it 100 times before." They stood at the window for 4 minutes and made conversation that neither of them afterwards remembered a word of, and the room went back to its noise, and by the time the music started again, the whole thing had been folded into the evening as a curiosity rather than a scandal. Then he said, "There is a card room through that door which is empty because the tables have not been set. Go into it. I will follow in 3 minutes." "Sir," "Please," he said, "I am not going to do anything to you. I am going to tell you something, and you would much rather hear it from me tonight than from somebody else on Thursday." The card room was dark and smelled of wax. He came in 3 minutes later exactly, and left the door standing open a foot, which she noticed and was obscurely grateful for. "I ought to begin," he said, "by telling you my name, because you plainly don't know it, and everyone else in that gallery does. I am Ravensmere." Amelia's stomach dropped out of her. The Duke of Ravensmere. "Yes, I hugged the Duke of Ravensmere." "You did," he agreed, "in front of the Renshaws, the Ferrars, Lady Bassett, who writes 11 letters a day, and my great-aunt Margaret, who is deaf and consequently very loud." Amelia put both hands over her face. "I want to be clear that I am not angry," he said. "I want to establish that first, because what I am about to say will sound as though I am. Say it." "There is a hearing on the 11th of February, said the Duke of Ravensmere, "in which I am attempting to keep guardianship of my brother's daughter. She is 9. My sister-in-law's family have applied to have her removed from my care, and their entire case, the whole of it, there is nothing else in it, is that a bachelor of 31 is an unsuitable person to raise a girl, and that my household is not a proper one." Amelia took her hands away from her face very slowly. "Oh God," she said. "Yes, oh God, I'm sorry. I had no idea. I know you didn't." He was leaning against the card table, with his arms folded, quite calm. "Nobody in that gallery is going to say the Duke was ambushed by a stranger. They are going to say that an unmarried woman put her arms around me in public, and that I did not remove her, which is what happened, and by Thursday Colonel Farrar's solicitor will have it, because the Ferrars are my sister-in-law's cousins, and they were standing 11 feet away. The room was very cold. "What can I do?" Amelia said. "Tell me, and I'll do it. I'll write to them. I'll write to the court. I'll swear whatever you like. I'll say I was taken ill. I'll say anything at all. An affidavit from the woman herself is worth precisely nothing, and it makes it a matter of record besides." He shook his head. "No, there are 2 ways out of a thing like this, and I have been standing in that gallery for 4 minutes going through both of them. What's the first? I disown it entirely. I say you are a stranger to me, that your conduct was extraordinary, and that I was as astonished as anybody." He said it flatly. "That answers the guardianship. It is very likely enough, on its own, to end their case. And what happens to me? You are finished," said the Duke of Ravensmere, "completely and immediately. A woman who does that to a stranger, and is publicly repudiated by him, does not recover. And I would guess, from the way you were standing when I found you at my shoulder, that you have already got very little left to lose, which means it would not cost you a great deal to lose the rest. And that is the most contemptible sentence I have ever spoken aloud, and I would like you to know I heard myself say it." Amelia found that she was gripping the back of a chair. "What's the second way?" He did not answer at once. "The second way," he said, "is that it was not extraordinary.